Guide to France, Part 1. Paris, Area, Part 1. I forget the name of the little town. Let's say this is like Charles de Gaulle area. We're in Minnesota. We have three options. Mostly, like if you're not going to do, I don't like to do connecting flights. So direct flights from Minnesota to Western Europe. Whatever they do in London, it's one of those airports. Amsterdam, Schiphol, I love saying that, and Charles de Gaulle. Those are the three. So that's it. You can connect through those or whatever, and I suppose that'll change. That's what it was this year, and I chose Charles de Gaulle. Wasn't that drawn to Paris, especially because I'm traveling solo this time, and it seems like it's going to be depressing to spend a lot of time in Paris, even with all the sights and everything. Like, you're supposed to bring a padlock there and put it on the bridge and do a smooch selfie. I'm by myself, like, okay. So that, and I was a little intimidated by the idea that, like, I've heard if you go to Paris, you'll be treated like a tourist. I'm a tourist. It's fine. I own that. I asked for some advice. I vented a little before my trip. It sounds so bougie to object to having to go to Paris, but like, I don't know. I'm a little intimidated by this world-class city that's like a thing. Paris is a thing above and beyond the fact that it's like the descriptions you can make of population and location and the continent and other things. It's like a thing. It has it's Paris. Advice from my mom actually was like, well, just, when you're talking to people, don't just walk up to them and demand something like in a transaction. Begin with, say, like, bonjour, and ça va. Yeah. Like, try a little. Make some little connection before you order the crepe or whatever it is. And that was good advice. Like, I hardly tried not doing that. I was just conscious of wanting to do that. So I guess I can't say that things would have turned out differently. This wasn't like a scientific project where I go around and anyway. Charles de Gaulle is, if you look at TripAdvisor, or don't look at TripAdvisor, and the Rick Steves Facebook group that's like a swarm, like an anthill of international travelers, don't spend much time on there either. Rick Steves, if you ever see this, you're a cool guy. Your hordes of people, I appreciate the enthusiasm. Your Facebook group is mostly photos of people's suitcase that they've like, hey, I'm packed, and then they say how long they're going and a summary of where they're going, and look, I fit it all inside this. How did I do? And then other people pick it apart. They're like, that'll never work. The other thing that's big in TripAdvisor and the Rick Steve Facebook group, which I had to actually mute because it was not a wealth of useful information. Like, people really hate Charles de Gaulle Airport. Like, people detest this airport. What was all the fuss about? That's what I wanted to find out. Besides, I had no alternative besides flying back into Amsterdam, which I've done, or London, which, like, it's going to be too cold in October, November to be going up there. And I wanted to go someplace where they don't speak English as the first language and other things that you don't need to know about. So I packed my little bag and I didn't take a picture of it, put it on the internet. And I got to the airport and I just can't believe it. Like, the plane is going to fly how far? I don't know. What, 6,000 miles? And I know an airplane ticket is a lot of money. I think I paid 1,400 for this, you know, round trip. So divide that by 2, divide that by the number of miles. It's like 10 cents a mile or something. Like, it's so cheap. I guess I don't enjoy every individual mile separately, but they add up to, like, holy cow, I'm going to get on this plane, sit down, do nothing, take the occasional bathroom break, except snacks and beverages when they're handed to me. When the bumpy thing happens, wait a few more minutes, wake up, rub my eyes, whatever, and I'm in France. Like, how cool is that? And so anyway, I'm feeling smug. I love going to the gate before the trip, when the plane is going to be going, like, to a different continent or something, and just check out the people that are waiting for the plane, because there's like some French-looking people waiting for this plane. And these are all the French people that were in Minneapolis last week, going home, or whatever, you know. I mean, it's so easy to make up little stories about each and every. I love you all. People who gather at gates to get on flights, I love you. We're all going, we're going to join together in flight. We're going to have an experience together. It's so cool. I get so hyped up. The first 24 hours of the trip are the most dangerous. You got to keep that in mind. The plane takes off, and we're off. I love tracking the flight, and we're just looking through photos here. This plane came right in over London. There's that sense of anticipation that is really before the plane even takes off, but especially as the plane is getting closer and closer to landing and we can zoom in. But it's just crazy what's in Western Europe is like the board of a board game. Everything is like pretty close together, and there's like Alps over here and Pyrenees, and the Carpathian Mountains are off in the distance, and we just flew over a Big Ben. Like, I'm dying. Look at me. And Verizon welcomes me to France. Charles de Gaulle Airport, I wanted to know. I wanted to suffer. I'm like, bring it on. Rick Steves' Facebook group, 41,000 members, can't be wrong. TripAdvisor, can't be wrong. This airport, this is going to be worse than the Philadelphia airport when it's 107 degrees outside and humid. Right? I don't know. Plane lands. The sun hasn't come up yet. It's kind of pretty. I enter the Charles de Gaulle airport with an open heart. And I'm like tired, but my mind is as open as it can be after like the 2.5 hours of sleep, with no kidding. Like, everybody knows you sleep on that eastbound flight that goes through the night. I think even the person next to me knows that, but she had an aisle seat booked with her friend. She's like a savvy European traveler. She told me all about it. Cool enough person. They just sat up all night talking. Like, as if they haven't already. They've been on like 30 trips together, she was telling me. She's from western Minnesota. What do they even talk about anymore? Like, can't they just sit there? Isn't there supposed to be a little silence between friends? I don't know. I actually slept pretty well, but it was, you know, like, listen, lady, Judy, or whatever. She was funny, too. We got in the plane. I'm in the window seat because I don't want to be the person that gets climbed over. I want to be the whatever. That's my strategy. She sat down, settled in, looked at me, and she said, name? I'm like, Andy. And she said her name. It was like Linda or something. I'm like, what's up? And then that wasn't all the talking she did. Oh, man. I'm never going to get to my... Well, this will go quick. We're going to just tell you a little about Charles de Gaulle Airport and one interesting site nearby. But, okay, first 24 hours of the trip are the most dangerous. Believe it. Like, every time you go on a trip, remember that. It's a fact. And look at the trips you've already taken and the maybe silly things you've done on trips. Like, you're giddy. You're away from home. Take it easy. You're not something... I don't know. This is a rule. I didn't make up this rule, but I've observed it as okay. the other rule is this comes from Rick Steves, not his Facebook group. And those are two very different things. Rick Steves has it's like a blog post about how to beat jet lag. And I'll do a guide to jet lag sometime because I have that all figured out too. I can help you with that. Except if you're going to Germany, watch out because you can't have melatonin there unless you're 55 and up. You believe that? Even with the placebo effect that melatonin is. Anyway, it's illegal unless you're 55 and up in Germany. Jet lag. Rick Steves' blog post, Guide to Jet Lag. You could probably find it yourself if you Google or it's in his book or something. He says you can sort of do whatever you want the first 24 hours you're in Europe if you're coming from the U.S. because for those that first day or two, it doesn't matter what's in front of you. You're going to be like, oh my God, I'm in Europe. This is so cool. And you're just going to, that can carry you through most anything. And sure enough, I'm like, oh my God, this airport is so beautiful. And I had a place I wanted to visit. But first I just wanted to get outside. I was watching the sun come up. I found there's a Sheraton hotel inside the airport, and I just think it's really cool. I might not think that if I like worked there and I had to go there every day. But I think it's cooler than, I don't know. The Denver airport sucks to like utilize. It's like unusable. And I'll do a guide to that sometime too. But it's cool, right? It's like a really cool airport with design, and it used to be cool until they filled up the whole middle part with security lines that don't move. I mean, architecturally, whatever. Charles de Gaulle is like that too. I'm like, I don't know. I kind of like this. Passport control is no problem. And I went to this town. This was Atlas Obscura saved the day. I was like, I know I don't want to have a tight connection to Montpelier. I don't want to be trying to get on another plane for sure, or another train in case my international flight is late landing at Charles de Gaulle. So I want to kill some time near Charles de Gaulle without going all the way into Paris, because I'm going to deal with Paris later on this journey, like before my flight home. Check out old Atlas Obscura, and sure enough, there's a town nearby that Charles de Gaulle Airport was built. There's this cute little town with little chateaus in the countryside and a little whatever. And soon after Charles de Gaulle was built, a plane crashed right into the middle of the town. And the town kind of gave up. And I'll put the name of the town in the titles because I can't remember it. But what I did, I ended up just taking a Uber from the Sheraton, because that's an easy place to get picked up at Charles de Gaulle. That's travel tip number one. If you need to take a cab from Charles de Gaulle, don't try to find the like rideshare area. I literally tried to find where you take a rideshare from Charles de Gaulle, like the designated spot, and they have like little signs with Uber logos or whatever, and I couldn't figure it out. So I finally, the Sheraton, I thought there were actually like dudes at the desk at the Sheraton that helped me. It was fine. Super friendly. You go up to them, just like my mom said, you go up and you say, oh, bonjour. Bonjour. Then you tell them what you need and they help you. If you go up and like, hi, I need a cab. I didn't try that, but how would you feel? I don't know. Well, if someone asked for my help, I'd help them, but if they were friendly, I'd be friendly. Thank you, Mom. I mean, that was good advice. So this town, I wanted to see it. It's like a ghost town right near Paris. I was also hungry, and I was having the holy crap, I'm in Europe feeling, which can carry you pretty far. And I wasn't sure if my life was in danger, because who knows? Didn't seem like it though. So I just wandered around like, well, okay, I feel like a fish out of water. I'm just going to lean into that and be a fish out of water. What is it? What's a fish? Piscine? No. Poisson. Sans l'eau. So I found this vet hospital. Eventually found a little country store, or I don't know what, bordello, we would call it in the U.S. city. Found this wonderful 55 plus cheese, which, funny, I was just talking about the melatonin thing. Weird Turkish I mean, if you ever get bored in a foreign country, just go wander around in a store. Weisskäse in Salzlake. That's not even French. And there's some Bulgarian. Ooh. I was in survey mode and I took these pictures thinking like, I'll look at these later. Now I'm looking. This town, Guissainville. Guissainville. That's what it's called. There's a cat park. I mean, this is it. This is holy. I'm in Europe. And even better, I'm being dropped into a completely mundane neighborhood where normal people live and they're starting their day. This is a dream. This is I live for this. I don't want to see the Louvre in full throttle on a Saturday afternoon with, look at this Mexican restaurant. Of course, everything was closed. It was like Friday morning or something. It was so beautiful there. Just the green. Look, I could BS you. I could say, this is where I spent my sabbatical. I went to France and show you this picture and you'd be like, you're lucky. But this was the equivalent of like the Pierce Butler route in St. Paul. View Village, Old Village, Pony Club. Okay, I did a bit of walking. My feet were already sore. After you've been on an international flight, your feet smell. I was in that kind of a state. And here's the old town. Guess how many people I saw in the old town? Just here, we'll go through my pictures, and I'll try to remember to ask at the end. Graffiti? Best graffiti ever? But, I mean, together it adds up to something, right? Here's the old town. I don't know exactly where the plane crashed. I wasn't at that level of... Remember, I was in survey mode. But there's a bookstore here, which I think it goes beyond simply this, like, outdoor free library thing. Remember the book? You go to look at the titles of the books, and they're this way. It's like, whoo! Holy cow, I'm in Europe. Look at me. Smug. I am smug. No people. None. Nobody. In the greater Guissainville, yeah, sure. There are people out doing stuff. There are trucks driving around and everything. Look, in this picture you can see a Paris trash can. Because we're not that far from Paris here. These wonderful power tower pole things that have a built-in ladder. And they're concrete. But they still put that cute gaslight on there. And I don't think anybody uses these buildings. They're boarded up. Maybe people store things in them. I don't know. And back to Charles de Gaulle. Which, by the way, even like, I think I got an Uber back. I got an Uber back from that spot. In fact, I remember. The guy came and got me. They can always find you, right? But, like... The Uber drivers around Charles de Gaulle don't understand Charles de Gaulle. They like don't go in there maybe, and I had to just be polite. The dude took me to the wrong terminal. There are 3 terminals. One of them is closed and like permanently under construction for the past 11 years. That leaves 2. I knew which one I needed to get to, and I know and like the numbers, and I actually even knew the roads. Like I was sitting there figuring it out. I was reading the signs, and the guy couldn't figure it out. So finally I was like, oh, c'est bon, ici. And he's like, great, cool. He spoke English, of course. And I got out and like had to walk like 800 yards through a bunch of tunnels and stuff. Okay, Charles de Gaulle is a big airport. It's very big. That's because, think about it. So is LaGuardia. So is LAX. LAX is actually weirdly smushed into, I don't know. Charles de Gaulle is like, they built this airport so lots of people could get through there. It takes up lots of space. There are also trains. I took a train to Montpellier from Charles de Gaulle. I will tell you, there was nothing unpleasant about this airport. And we'll stop here. Here I'm getting on the train to Montpellier, and that's another story for another time. What did I learn? I learned, I already sort of knew. I'm sorry, Rick Steves' Facebook group, you seem like nice people, but you got to do more than just post photos of your rig, whatever, at your suitcase, and comment on other people's photos of their suitcases, and complain about airports. I don't mind if you do a little of those things. That's fine. Those things have their place. We can all help each other. I will say many of the things I read online about Charles de Gaulle proved to be untrue in my experience. Like, for example, rude anybody. I didn't encounter anybody rude. Everybody was there to help, and they were helpful. Some of them didn't speak English, so it took a second to like figure that out and do the old hand signals thing or whatever. Show them the thing. If you need to find a train and no one speaks your language and you've at least got your train you want on your phone, likely you do, you can say, excuse me, and walk up to somebody, be deferential, show them the thing, and they'll go, and if that's rude, I don't know. I don't think that's rude. I think that's just people being cool. I learned that. What else did I learn? Oh, the side trip to the little French village, it added a lot of flavor to my trip. And the rest of the day, next thing that happened, I was on a train that took 3 or 4 hours that went through Lyon and ended up in Montpellier, which is actually on the ocean almost. And like, what a day. What a day. And I'm glad I took this little side trip and didn't just make a beeline for the train. So that's my suggestion. Get off the plane and get out into some fresh air as fast as you can. Don't just get off your international flight that went overnight next to Chatty Cathy and get on another form of transport. Like, don't do that to yourself. It can wait. Do your transport in the afternoon. Go breathe the air. It's the most wonderful thing to be out of that tube full of people that got you there, and just get on the ground and check some things out. Get your tired feet, and then go relax on the train all afternoon. That's what I did. It worked for me. This has been Guide to France, the whatever I said at the beginning. That's it.